Hello and welcome to The German Guy Reviews. I'm The German Guy. Jim Button is one of those stories that is unavoidable when you grow up. Written by Michael Ende, the same mind behind the never-ending story tells the tale of a little boy that lives as an orphan child on a
Esel mit zwei Bergen und im tiefen, weiten Meer.
Yours truly even saw a play in the public theatre of it once, when he was but a little imp. I wonder if they still do blackface. It is safe to say that this is a core part of German literature, so of course a movie was bound to happen at some point. And I am going to look at it and tell you what I think. Because that's how a review works. We begin the movie on the stormy sea, where a bunch of pirates fish a baby out of the water. And they all look exactly the same. So, are you all captain at the same time, or do you have like a spinning wheel telling you who does what on the ship? The sea bandits want to sell the boy, but the postman screws up bad and delivers the baby to the other end of the world. Could have been worse. They also could have ignored the handle with care sign on the package and dropped the washing machine on it. Still, he was probably thrown around a lot. But to be fair, this is still far more accurate than what I have come to expect from the Post. This is the island of Lomaland, an extremely small piece of land with a population of a handful of people ruled over by a king. So if there are like a dozen people on this island, yet they can still finance their own castle and railroad, they either have the strongest currency in the world or they export Tiberium. The years go by. We see Jim growing up as a happy kid, driving around in Lukas' train again and again and again and again, never getting bored ever. I mean, that's cool. He likes the routine and the predictability of it all, so go away, magic sword. Don't even bother, ancient prophecy. He has no need to leave the comfort of his home. But of course, destiny has other plans. One fine day, Jim finds the box he arrived in as a baby. In it, he finds some photos and he begins to wonder, hey, why do I look different from you all? Which inevitably leads to a second question. Where do I really come from? Thankfully, Lukas is getting out of this awkward conversation by being called for an audience with the king, who tells him they will have to send Emma, his train, to the junkyard. The reason being that soon Jim will grow into a man, and because the island has a size that even the Vatican makes fun of, they will run out of space when that day comes. He will need his own house, and what if he gets married and has kids of his own? Well, obviously the answer is a good old purge. Always a purge. This news destroys Lukas emotionally, as being an engine driver is his life. So the scruffy old man decides to leave Lomaland altogether before he gives up his beloved train. Jim wants to join him since this is the chance to find out where he really came from. With a heavy heart, the boy leaves his mom behind, and shortly later the two best friends are on the road. Well, not really, cause they don't even have any train tracks beneath them. Emma wakes them up the same night when they swim into a storm. Yes, the train is sentient. Why didn't you make scrap metal out of me like the king said? This metal prison is torture. They get hit by a huge wave and wash up on shore of an Asian kingdom called Mandala. While helping fix up Emma, Jim finds a letter in a bottle, written in German words, but in the style of Mandarin. I guess that counts as cultural assimilation. The letter was written by a child, saying that she was kidnapped and sold off to a person called Frau Malzahn, which roughly translates as Miss Grindtooth. Her name is Lisi, and she begs those that read her message to tell her father the Kaiser, but the door guard doesn't want to let them in. However, one of the very little people that live in the city wants to help them out. His name is Ping Pong. He is the son of the royal cook, who first of all wants to give them something to eat. The Kaiser, in his grief, hasn't taken a single bite, and so there's a lot of it left. The thing is though that sad food is culturally extravagant, meaning it's a bunch of bugs. But instead of just going they simply try it out and admit it's not bad at all. First Gulliver's Travels take place with Jim Button in the same universe, now green eggs and ham. This iceberg is going deep. But before we can hear the right-wing media psychos preaching how this is social conditioning to prepare us for the forced bug diet we will get in New World Order or whatever, the two conductors ask why the Kaiser is so sad. Ping Pong tells them that the Kaiser's daughter has been kidnapped and he made a vow of silence until the day she returns. I shall not speak a single word. Well, I just did, but starting now. Well, starting now. What is weird here is the phrasing. I had to listen to this dialogue several times until I got it. Because first I thought the vow of silence was about not talking about his daughter, which would have made it very weird. And for some reason the little guy also said that nobody can figure out why the Kaiser is so sad. Which, really? Do you think maybe his favorite nightingale just died or a valuable porcelain doll broke and the kidnapping came as a good cover story? Anyway, Jim insists once again to see the Kaiser and the armed guards are happy this time to comply. They are brought before 3 advisors of His Majesty who have corrupt usurper written in their faces. And it's true, with some phony excuse they attack them and pass a death sentence on them. Just in the nick of time, the real ruler of the kingdom shows up and says, or rather hand signs, the bad guys to the dungeon. Lukas and Jim offer to rescue his daughter, because he recognizes the name the Wild 13 in the letter of the princess, the same name on his baby box. The old monarch shows them a letter of his, which got damaged when it got fished out of the Yellow River. In order to uncover the full text, they cleverly lay the 2 letters on top of each other. It informs them that she and many other children have been kidnapped by the pirate crew the Wild 13 and brought to Dragon City. The Kaiser calls upon the smartest scholars in the land to answer 2 questions. Where is Dragon City and how can one get there?
Kein sterblicher Mensch weiß die Antwort auf diese Fragen.
We can't help you with your question, but we have this funny dinosaur who jumps over cactuses. I would love it so hard if there was like a story where someone seeks the advice of the wisest creature in the world and that creature is itself an absolute moron because the general intelligence in that world is so low. Anyhow, they admit they don't know, but they suspect that if they follow the Yellow River long enough, that they should arrive at their destination. The road is full of danger, but Jim says as long as they stick together, nothing can beat them. The next morning they are on their way. So how does this work exactly? Did they build in a car wheel, or is it like being on a horse, since Emma has a will of her own? We quickly drive by a couple of the fantastical locations of the world of Jim Button, which is more closely explored in the animated show, as we don't have enough time for that here. In the Valley of Dawn, their own echoes and the noise of Emma's whistle cause a rock rain. Lukas is forced to use the nitro boost so they can make it out alive. For some reason I expected him to turn to the camera and say, "Family. Family, 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 family." Full of dust but still breathing, they arrive in the desert. Jim has to do a dangerous repair after their little stunt, and after which they are right back on track. Well, not really, but you know what I mean. Because of the heat, they begin to hallucinate. and Emma runs out of water, which she needs to cool her engine. They almost begin to accept that there will be vulture snacks, but then a giant dude appears. Like a giant dude. He gets to normal size and explains that he is a reverse optical illusion colossus. Normally, when things are far away, they would get smaller and smaller, and for him, it's the other way around. Our war against the laws of physics is like class war. It's only over when it's won. He is a friendly guy and brings them to his oasis, saying they will refill Emma later. The giant tells the two guys his story and how they are the first people since his parents that aren't afraid of him. Now that you have brought up parents, how did that exactly work with your birth? Was the doctor like, "Ooh, I can see the head"? Well, how does that all fit in there? Anyway, as a thanks for treating him like a person, the man tells them how to get to Dragon City, the field of black rocks. In this area, the rocks are so dark that they are almost invincible. To the left and right of the road, there is a deep, near endless abyss, so every step has to be done with absolute caution. Lukas says they will leave the navigation to Emma, as she has enough experience driving through the dark in their tunnels at home. On tracks! On tracks! From extreme heat into extreme cold, they freeze their butts off. Worse, they are almost out of coal. They get stuck, but then Jim has the saving idea. They use the steam of Emma's whistle, which freezes into snow almost instantly, showing them where it's safe to go. In the land of 1,000 volcanoes, which is missing a giant burning eye, they are forced to go underground because they get surrounded by lava, leaving Emma behind. You'll be fine. You are made out of metal, and lava is metal when it gets really hot. So basically it's like swimming in spaghetti sauce. They meet this strange little life form, half dragon, half hippo. His father was pretty short-sighted. It's not even a joke, that's the actual explanation the movie gives. Imagine you are a little hippo, drinking some water at a river, thinking about this and that, and then you look up and see freaking smoke slowly descending upon you. You don't know what's about to happen. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to picture what it looked like. I want you to imagine what it sounded like. This is the kind of stuff that I think about when I go to bed in the evening. He goes by the name Nepomuk, voiced by none other than Bully Herbig, who can now scratch off another favorite from his childhood off the list. Lukas repairs his oven, and as a thanks, Nepomuk helps them out by giving them some of his coal. Emma is getting disguised as one of the giant fire-breathing lizards, so that they can sneak into Dragon City. We then finally find out what the purpose of all the kidnappings were. Miss Grindtooth built a school and needed students for it. Oh no! She is giving kids a basic education, which many children in this world are still lacking. She might be even in league with UNICEF, that monster! No, of course, her school resembles more than one level in Little Nightmares 2. The class is a scary, oppressive environment, and Miss Grindtooth a cruel and harsh teacher. The dragon starts attacking our hero, while Lee C helps the other kids start a prison school break. Lukas breaks through the door, with Emma smashing Miss Grindtooth against the school board. But before they run away, they put their own chains upon their former teacher. You never forget the last day of school. They go to the yellow river behind their school, where Lisi threw all her messages in, which then brings them all the way back home.
Lisi!
But it's not quite over yet. Miss Grindtooth, who they took with them so that she could not alert the other dragons, suddenly begins to get very sick and is about to die. She thanks them for not killing her. Letting her live gives her another chance to be better. She dishes out some wisdom, explaining that rarely ever someone who is evil is also happy.
You taught me that evil is just a word. Under the skin, it's simple pain.
Before passing on so that she can eventually be reborn as a golden dragon of wisdom, she allows them to ask one question, giving them a solution to their space issue back home. revealing the exact coordinates of a swimming island that they can take back home and just glue onto the rest of Lomaland. Miss Grindtooth, there are people living here. Well, obviously you have to push them into the sea. That's not really what we want. The grindster, away! They come back home, mother and child are reunited, the king is happy that the problem of not enough space and resources has solved itself, and then Emma becomes a mother herself. I am less perplexed about the how and more the when and who. Lukas! And so the movie ends, with Lukas asking young Jim why exactly he didn't ask the dragon his initial question, where he is from, where his parents are, to which he replies that this isn't necessary anymore, because he realized his home and family was always here. And that was Jim Button. That's pretty good. This was a fun, enjoyable ride in a wonderful world full of pleasant oddities. What I really like best is Jim Button. He is something of an early Son Goku, in that he is equally fascinated by mundane things and things that are out of bounds. But this makes sense for his character. He grew up isolated on a small island. Everything is new and exciting to him. And sure, none of this is particularly new, but we use these tropes for a reason, because they work. I just like seeing the eyes of a child character twinkling with wonder and excitement. It makes me feel alive inside. Michael Ende's writing and the other fantastic characters he created also help a lot. It's an adventure, plain and simple. A beautiful adventure with two friends saving the princess. It's straightforward, it knows exactly what it wants to be. And that's great. What I also just love is that Jim never blames himself for anything, as in, oh, if I never would have come to Lomaland, then none of this would have happened or some crap. That really is one of those tropes that writers need to cut back on. Jim knows that it's stupid to feel bad for something he has no control over. I love how imaginative the world is, and the solutions to the problems they face are smart. This film is great. It's a great introduction for adventure films in general. What didn't work so well was Miss Grindtooth's ending and rebirth. It came way too fast and it came out of nowhere. I knew it was coming, I know how the story goes, but in other media she has a way more complex and understandable redemption arc. The German Guy out and auf Wiedersehen.